I want to talk today about our work to expose and stop Elon Musk's cruel primate experiments. A few years ago, Musk announced he was starting this company. And when he started Neuralink, he talked about creating a brain-computer interface, a brain-computer machine, essentially melding the human brain with computers. And while he talked about some of the lofty humanitarian goals of this company, like helping paraplegics walk again and even supposedly curing Parkinson's and curing Alzheimer's, there was also something underlying the real history of this company. And that's revealed in something he said, though doesn't say much anymore. And that's that I created Neuralink specifically to address the AI symbiosis problem, which I think is an existential threat. Now, if you don't know what the AI symbiosis problem is, that's okay. You're not alone. It means that computers will become so intelligent that they will be smarter than us at some point. And in order to compete with them, we need to merge with them, merge our brains with them, so that we are not overwhelmed or overcome by the advancement of computer technology. That's the real reason behind Neuralink. And we learned in 2020 that Neuralink had given $1.4 million to the University of California, Davis to conduct experiments on rhesus macaques. And in 2020, when we learned this, we filed a public records request with the university to get documents. We asked for their protocols. We asked for their veterinary records, the standard things that you always ask for when you're looking into the use of animals at public universities. And last spring, we got a response, but it wasn't very promising. UC Davis gave us records, and most of them looked like this, just heavily redacted, blacked out files with all the details taken out of them. And UC Davis refused to give us photos, videos, or veterinary records for the animals. And so we did what we always do when a school denies us these records unlawfully, and we sued them. So last June, we sued UC Davis in state court. And over the last few months, in response to that lawsuit, seeing the writing on the wall, UC Davis has actually been handing us over documents. And very recently, we got 600 pages of veterinary records that relate to 23 monkeys used at UC Davis in Neuralink-funded experiments. And all of these records, almost all of them, look like this. They're handwritten notes. This is actually maybe some of the best handwriting you'll see in those 600 pages. But my colleague, Jeremy Beckham, and I spent days going through them. And in these records, we found some truly troubling things. Now, just to take a step back, remember, what Neuralink is doing is trying to develop a brain-computer interface. And to do this, they are cutting up to 10 holes in the heads of each of these monkeys. They are inserting electrodes into the brain, and they're mounting a device on the top of the animal's skulls. You can imagine there's nothing mundane or non-invasive about this. It is highly invasive, and you can imagine the things that might play out. But you don't have to, because we've actually found it in the records. In these veterinary records, we've seen repeated infections at the implant sites in the skulls. We've seen the constant prescribing of antibiotics to deal with those infections. In fact, there were a number of monkeys who developed antibiotic-resistant E. coli that became so bad that they had to be euthanized. Animals were picking and pulling at the implants. There was loss of coordination by some of the monkeys. Some of them experienced seizures. Some of them exhibited head pressing. Head pressing is actually something that animals sometimes exhibit because they're suffering from neurological pain. This is where they'll press their head against the floor or the wall. There was also this substance called bioglue that was used to fill cracks between the device and the skulls of the animals, and that seeped through a couple of the monkeys' skulls and caused brain hemorrhaging and other severe side effects so bad that the animals had to be euthanized. Now, it's worth noting that both of those incidents was a clear violation of the Federal Animal Welfare Act, and neither of them, nor any of these other problems, were ever reported to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which enforces the Animal Welfare Act. And then, of course, we also saw repeatedly throughout the records references to the animals being lethargic, depressed, significant weight loss and hair loss, symptoms of severe stress in these awful environments. So we filed a federal complaint with the USDA, asking the agency to investigate UC Davis and Neuralink for violations of the Federal Animal Welfare Act. Violations we think are abundantly clear. While the USDA has really fallen down on the job in a lot of ways in recent years, we're hopeful that even they will see how clear these violations are. And it's worth noting that we're asking USDA to investigate not just UC Davis, but also the company Neuralink. And that's an important distinction because at the end of 2020, Neuralink took the last remaining monkeys, the ones who were still alive, and that was just a few of them, and moved them to their facility, which we think is in Fremont, California. So Neuralink has continued their monkey experiments at their own private facility, out of sight of the public. We can't get public records from Neuralink's company like we can from a public university like UC Davis. So we're asking the USDA to investigate both the university and the company. But there's actually more to this, because while we did get some records, there are some things the school refuses to give us, and that includes videos. So UC Davis has acknowledged that photos and videos exist. And what they've said is that these videos aren't even at UC Davis anymore. This is what happened. Neuralink came in with its own hard drives. They put them in a public institution with public employees who helped them record videos on these hard drives. And then some months later, Neuralink came back and took the hard drives with the videos on them and took them to the company. So Neuralink has essentially absconded with, or you could say, stolen public records. And UC Davis claims because we no longer are in possession of these, we can't give them to you under the state records law. We believe because these records were created at a public institution with the help of public employees, that they are subject to public records laws. So along with our USDA complaint, we actually filed a second lawsuit saying that UC Davis needs to hand over photos and videos. And I will say, just based on the veterinary records, we know that some of the disturbing things I described to you are in fact on video footage, because some of the vet techs referring to video footage when examining animals. So we're fighting in court to get the records. We're fighting with the USDA to get them to inspect these facilities. There's a lot more work to be done. What I want to finish with is the fact that you can actually create human brain computer interfaces without invasive animal experiments. There are these non-invasive neurofeedback methods, like the one worn here. There are human cadavers that can help you improve surgery accuracy so that you're better at it when you actually do implant electrodes in somebody who might need it. You can use postmortem or ex vivo human tissues to improve the safety of devices. You can actually attach electrodes during medically necessary surgery, something we've been doing for a long time. And then there are also these non-invasive robotic exoskeletons like this that help people walk. And these are already available and have been for some years. So Elon Musk likes to promote what he's doing as groundbreaking and novel and new. But there are a lot of neuroscientists who will point out that nothing he has accomplished so far is noteworthy or different than anything that's been available for years now. Also, a few weeks ago, you may have seen some news coverage that Elon Musk is ready to conduct human clinical trials because he was hiring at Neuralink a clinical trials director. But of course, just trying to hire for that position doesn't mean you're ready for human clinical trials. And I think it's very clear that based on these records we've seen, it's hard to imagine that these devices are ready to be implanted in people.